Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more. Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first. In their covered wagons, they find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's Blockchain Future Tech Expo.com. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Chris Amsler, and my guest today is Josh Mclver, Uledger. How are you doing today, Josh?
Good, Chris. Thanks. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks. Josh, give us a little bit about your background leading up to Uledger.
Yeah, so I started my career at a Big Four accounting firm called Deloitte, and was there for a few years and worked in their audit practice. And it was actually my time there that ultimately led to the seed of an idea that led to Uledger. But I'll get back to that in a little bit. After Deloitte, I got my MBA, worked in private equity for a couple of years, and then I was working for a technology startup out of Utah, and that's where I learned about blockchain. And they were looking at blockchain for a very different use case. They were creating a reputation economy, which is a really cool idea. I hope somebody does it. It's going to be hard to pull off, though. But when I learned about blockchain technology, I immediately thought back to my days as a Deloitte auditor. And as you know, as probably most people know, auditors are tasked with going into a company and looking at their control environment, their technology environment, and their data, and writing an opinion and giving an assessment on whether they have the right controls in place and their data is accurate, and they write an opinion that third parties like investors and other people can rely on, that to rely on the fact that their data has integrity. It's hard, though. It's a very time-consuming, expensive manual process. And as an auditor, there's no way that you can go in and test 100% of all the data, right? You do sample testing, it's statistical analysis, and it's effective. But I thought immediately after I learned about blockchain, what if companies, any entity, underpin their technology infrastructure, their databases with blockchain, and as a result would have this non-forgeable mathematical audit trail, basically, of all their transactions. And when I say transaction, that could be a journal entry, a financial transaction, but it could also mean an email or a document or a contract or even a video or a picture. So that's what led to the development of Uledger. Met Tollant, my CTO, about 3 years ago now, and we've been building it since.
Very good. I want to go back to the reputation economy that you were talking about. Can you describe that a bit more for us?
Yeah, so the idea of a reputation economy, it's really interesting. So everyone has this digital profile, or maybe multiple digital profiles, and your reputation. It's the idea that your reputation online has value, right? So your input on a comment board on one site doesn't necessarily affect the credibility that you have on another site, or your credit score may not have credibility on some other financial transaction that you want to make, such as you're an eBay seller or something like that. And so it's the idea, at least one interpretation of the idea, is that you have this reputation, this digital reputation that can follow you from site to site and from company to company, and you can do that using blockchain.
Oh, very good. So do you think that would eventually kind of take the place of a credit or credit monitoring based society, or what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think that's the idea. And well, I think that your credit score would be one factor of, maybe 1,000 other factors that contribute to this reputation score that you could have. And I don't know if it's a score, if it's a color, or some kind of metric that shows or that compares your reputation to others. But yeah, it's the idea that you have this algorithm that takes all this data about you and your activity online and gives you this credibility score.
I think that would be amazing, and a lot of factors, but especially given the things like Facebook or the social media type of things, when those are integrated into your reputation, then we might start seeing some dialing back on opinions, or who knows, we might even see, more outlandish opinions thrown out there. But yeah, that's definitely really, really cool to think about. So Josh, you're with Uledger. How is Uledger working?
So Uledger, I mentioned briefly, we've been around for officially now, a little over 2.5 years, but unofficially we've been working on this for over 3 years now, which in the blockchain space is kind of a long time as you look at other companies out there. But it's going really well. We've got some amazing growth happening right now, and there's a couple things that we attribute that growth to. And I'll just go into that if you don't mind. One is, I think, our blockchain approach. And our blockchain approach is very different than other approaches out there. And let me explain that a little bit. So as a comparison to another blockchain that is in a similar space as we are, I'll compare ourselves to Factom. Are you aware of Factom by chance?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, most people are. So Factom is, a classical distributed state machine design. They do centralized data timestamping and ordering based on when their chain receives events and includes them in this globally shared state. And then they anchor their chain to other blockchains for additional immutability. Now, however, they are the administrators of their chain and their network. So with Factom, you have to trust Factom, right? You have to trust that from a timestamping and certification perspective, they are acting trustworthy. And then they have a single chain on which all traffic resides. Now, Uledger's approach is quite a bit different, and we intended it to be this way because we're operating in a business environment. So with Uledger, we're a stateless protocol. What that means is we use multiple independent blockchains and associated nodes to collaboratively certify events among the various nodes. So there's no globally shared state. Instead, each node maintains its own state and works with other nodes to have their traffic certified and to perform certifications for other node traffic. So this method is what we call cross-fertilization. We've got around it. It allows us to be really highly scalable because there are many blockchains, not just one, similar to Factom. And because the event certification happens between the nodes, with no need to agree on this global date, it's a lot more efficient. Okay.
Okay.
And another thing that makes us different is that our network is trustless, because Uledger is not the central authority doing the timestamping and hashing of the events. Instead, it's done by each individual node, which is not owned by Uledger. So as a interesting and important side effect, is that timestamping in the traditional sense is handled very differently. The Uledger network can agree on the relative order of events between nodes without regard to the absolute time that any given node thinks it is. And this gets more and more important as you start moving into IoT and edge computing, where relativity comes into play. So very different. We built it that way because of the use cases that we're working on.
How does that affect IoT type of transactions?
Well, because with IoT and edge computing, you have a tremendous amount of data volume. It's not like we're just dealing with cryptocurrency transactions. There's a lot of those transactions, but when you get into IoT and edge computing, there's just this continuous stream of large amounts of data, where the order of events is important, but with measuring time, it gets very hard to do when you have that much data happening all the time.
Okay, well, very good. So how does Uledger work? How does that work for a consumer?
Yeah, good question. So the fabric of our technology is for what we call data integrity. So a company can underpin their existing technology infrastructure with Uledger, and they're enabled to have infrastructure-wide or entity-wide data integrity. This idea of a mathematically immutable audit trail of every event that happens on their database. And the data has integrity after that, because a third party can come in and rely on the accuracy of that data. They can rely on the fact that it hasn't been manipulated, or if it was manipulated, if someone tried to manipulate it, there's a trail of that. So it's this base layer of data integrity. And what makes us different in another way compared to other blockchain solutions is that we are designed to integrate with the company's existing technology infrastructure. There's no rip and replace of what you already have. And it's, for most companies, it's an API integration, which means very simple, very seamless. It may take 2 or 3 days to implement company-wide blockchain enablement. However, for companies that have that are bigger and have more data throughput and volume, we do have an on-prem solution for that. But again, it plugs into their existing technology infrastructure for that seamless integration of blockchain.
Very good. So what kind of companies are you looking for or to partner with?
We're working with quite a few companies. I'm not sure if I can tell you a few of them. So we're working with the city of Boise. They're an early customer of ours. We have built a POC with a Big Four accounting firm, which is really cool. What we did was we combined our blockchain technology with AI to predict and prevent transaction fraud. So we've taken that to a bunch of banks that we're pitching right now, and there's a lot of interest for that product. We are working with big data companies. We have supply chain companies. We're working now with a company, a really large company, who is working on a solution for VAT taxes in South America. And the idea there is that, so in some South American countries, there's what's called a VAT tax. And they require companies to have a repository of all their transactions, so the government can go in there and make sure that they're paying the appropriate tax. And so we're working with this company to integrate blockchain into that whole process to add validity and transparency and trust to that process.
Take a step back real quick here. I'm really interested in the combining of technologies with blockchain and AI.
Sure.
Can you describe more of how the the AI in this specific case is helping with the blockchain?
Yeah, so let's start again with this whole idea of data integrity. So AI is using data it makes calculations of data to make decisions off of, right? And so if that original data doesn't have trust or transparency or isn't reliable, it affects every decision that the AI makes down the road. Plus, you with blockchain added to AI machine learning decisions, you have this immutable, timely, transparent audit trail of everything that happened, right? So the blockchain and AI combination is really compelling for a lot of different use cases.
That's the exciting thing to me right now. I hear, blockchain a lot over the last year, and, the technologies are pretty amazing. I think cross-pollination of the technologies is what's going to really blow things up here in the future. And so that's really interesting to me to hear about. I know it's interesting to our users as well.
Yeah. In fact, we've got 3 really exciting projects that we're working on doing just that, combining blockchain with AI. We're hopefully going to have an announcement coming out here pretty soon about one of those projects.
Okay, yeah, that'll be awesome. So now, before we started the podcast, we were talking about the offering. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we're, as a U.S.-based company, it's been really interesting to watch the regulatory environment around ICOs. We've been very kind of hesitant to jump into an ICO because of just that, the regulatory environment. Especially as a company that helps other companies become regulatory compliant through data integrity. So we don't want to be in a position where we all of a sudden are not regulatory compliant ourselves with some kind of ICO offering. And so what we're doing is we're doing a Reg D 506C offering via SAFT. And we've done a 2 million plus ish token seed round through this, and right now we're doing what we're calling a pre-sale, working with an investment banking firm to package up this investment in a regulatory compliant way and taking it to Wall Street type investors, accredited investors. So we'll do that. It's all regulatory compliant, and then once we're done with that, what we're going to do and what the plan is right now is that we're going to do a Reg A plus offering and offer a security token during an ICO. So I don't know how familiar your audience is with security tokens, but it's a way to do a version of an ICO in the U.S. in a regulatory compliant way. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a great description of it. What do you see for the roadmap after this?
So we've got a pretty robust product development roadmap based on some of the projects that we're working on right now. And so we're actively looking to hire more development talent. We're getting to the point where we have more customers and clients than we can handle with the people that we have on the team. So we're looking to develop those resources as well, along with business development resources. We're really getting to the point now where we're not so much in the startup get off the ground phase, where we're now in the more of a growth phase, which is great. So we're really focused on growth going forward.
And for hiring, what kind of people are you looking for right now?
It depends. I know we need a couple UI, UX guys for some front-facing development that we have. We need more blockchain talent. We need AI talent. So it really depends. We need a pretty broad spectrum of talent. And I know Talent, my CTO co-founder, he's got a pretty aggressive, what I want to call this, not recruiting approach, but profiling approach. He makes people that apply with us, that want to work with us, do this pretty difficult coding challenge, so that it slows down the process. But because the work that we're doing is pretty complex, it's a test that he feels is appropriate.
I'm sure you get that quality out of that as well. So yeah,
I think we do. And then business development salespeople are hard to find. At least qualified ones that can sell something this technical and new. We've had a hard time finding those people. So if you know anybody, send them our way.
Definitely. Well, Josh, I'm curious. We started this journey with your background in auditing, and you had the seed planted in your mind. What are some new ideas and new things that you're working on, some potential seeds that have been planted since you started this?
Yeah, good question. So we have this broad infrastructure technology that is great. It's very applicable. We think every database in the world should be underpinned with it. So now we've got some more specific applications that we're building on top of this infrastructure. And I'll give you a couple ideas. So our very first product off the shelf that we're now spending more time on developing was an email solution where we underpin a company's existing email platform with blockchain. And the purpose there obviously is so they have this immutable, non-forgeable layer and trail of their email activity. So they can't delete an email. They can't they can't hide something that they would like to hide if they wanted to. You can think of a million scenarios where you hear of people deleting emails, and those emails need to be found eventually. And it's a very quick and easy way to comply with some regulatory requirement or legal discovery requirement where they need to see all of your emails. And so the regulators and the attorneys and judges can quickly rely on the fact that your emails are what you say they are based on this list. And we've had a lot of interest in that product, so we're continuing to flesh out that idea and that product. And then there's also a product around data security that we're actively working on. And it's the idea that companies have these data logs, and when a bad actor hacks into their system, they try to cover up their tracks through these data logs. And the idea of using blockchain to mitigate that issue is really interesting too. So we've got a lot of little projects like that we're working on and testing with the market. And then we've got a number of really interesting partnerships that we're working on to leverage technology and networks and expertise that these companies already have. And we believe that they can quickly help introduce blockchain with their clients as well.
Great. So how can listeners find out more about you and more about Uledger?
Yeah, good question. The best place is to go to our website, uledger.co. We've got blogs that we put up there pretty periodically. We've got press releases. We've got interviews like this. But if they really want to, they can simply email us or call us up, and we're pretty responsive.
Very good. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Josh Mclver with Uledger. Thank everybody for joining us today here on the Future Tech Podcast, and we will see you next time.
Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first. In their covered wagons, they find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's Blockchain Future Tech Expo futuretech.com. Thank you. You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.